I watched A Discovery of Witches, and here is what I thought. So if you haven't heard of this show, here is a brief synopsis. So in this show, there are 3 groups of creatures: vampires, witches, and demons. There is one witch in particular that we focus on in this show, and that is Diana. Diana may be a witch, but she doesn't really use her powers. So one day when she is doing research in the library, she is able to call upon this book called the Book of Life. And this book in particular has been lost for hundreds of years, and tons of people have been looking for it, searching for it, trying to call upon it, but no one has been able to find it until now. So there are a lot of eyes on Diana now since she has done this, and one of the people who is curious about her is Matthew. He is a vampire, and he takes a special interest in Diana. With the two of them kind of working together and teaming up, they draw even more attention to themselves, and they have quite a few enemies when doing this, and everyone wants the Book of Life that only Diana is able to call upon, and that is where the story begins. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say about this show without telling you too much, but now we'll be getting into spoiler territory. Okay, so Discovery of Witches. Why did I really check this out? So I remember seeing trailers for this show a while ago, like when it was first premiering. And just from the trailers, I know I was interested in this show. But I think the reason that I didn't really watch it, because I don't think I had that channel readily available to me, so I don't think I was able to watch it when it was coming on and premiering. But then recently, I saw that it was on Netflix's top 10 TV shows, and I was so happy that I finally got a chance to give it a watch. So in this video, I'm really going to be breaking the down show into the seasons. There are a total of 3, and I'm kind of just going to go over what happened in each one. Okay, so let's start off with season 1. So in this season, as I mentioned before, we find out there are 3 major creatures in the show, and those creatures are witches, vampires, and demons. So they kind of have like a committee, or the congregation, I believe this is what they call it, where a few of each of the creatures meet and they kind of discuss what's going on and uphold the rules that are set. The only thing I can really equate this to that came to the top of my mind is Twilight. So if you remember Twilight, they have the Volturi, which is kind of like the council of vampires. It's kind of similar to that. So this is like the council for all the creatures, where a group of represents each creature and they come and discuss and hold the rules for each one. So Diana is one of the main characters. She is a witch, but she doesn't really use her magic. Her parents were killed when she was younger, and it was because of their magic. So she doesn't know a lot about her magic specifically, or even really about a lot of other magical creatures. She just kind of decides, like, I don't like what happened to my parents, so she kind of just doesn't really see magic in a positive way all the time. So one day she is at Oxford Library doing her research, and she decides to check out a particular book. So as she begins reading this book, strange things start happening. Lights begin flickering on and off in the library, and we kind of see that other creatures that are within her vicinity start to feel something strange happening to them as well. Another main character in our show is Matthew, and he is a vampire. And we kind of first see him when he starts to feel something strange happening when the book is open, and he goes to investigate and see what happens. And that leads him to Diana. And it turns out that the book that Diana was reading was the Book of Life. So this book in particular is very special because it has the origins of all the creatures and how they came to be. And everyone has been trying to find this book for hundreds and hundreds of years. Everyone for their different reasons, whether it be good or bad, everyone has been looking for this book. But Diana is the witch that was able to call upon it. And what's also strange is that she is a witch who doesn't really use her powers. So how did she get this book, even if it was by accident? And as I said before, now that they know she has the power to call upon this book and get it, everyone is watching her and wants her. So immediately after all of this is happening, because she's kind of stayed away from magic, she returns the book back to the library. But for some reason, when anyone else tries to check that book out or try to get that book, it no longer exists for some reason. So it's kind of strange how she was able to do this without even trying. So as I mentioned before, someone who takes an interest immediately in Diana is our other main character, Matthew. And as soon as they meet, Matthew and Diana kind of have a connection to each other. So usually, creatures keep to their own group. Witches don't really hang out with vampires, and vice versa. But for some reason, Diana decides to trust Matthew, and they both can't really deny the connection that they're feeling between each other. But because of this, many other creatures are scared of this relationship that they are developing. Because as I said, vampires stick with vampires, demons with demons, witches with witches, and the only people that kind of commingle are the ones in the congregation. No one else really talks to each other between creatures that much, or like not because they want to. But there also is a rule that different creatures can't have romantic relationships with each other. But obviously Diana and Matthew decide to defy those rules and stay together, even though they were literally told to their faces not to do that. But by making that decision to continue to stay together, they have kind of challenged their authority of the congregation. They have challenged the authority of the congregation and kind of started a little war in between creatures. So in season 1, a lot of things happen, and now more than ever, Diana needs to be stronger and work on her magic. She needs to become her full self and reach her full potential with her magic in order to prepare what is to come, kind of what has been put into motion. So Matthew and Diana decide to travel to another time so that she'll be able to practice her magic without being constantly chased by people. So they'll be a little bit safer, and then by the time they come back, she will be able to use her full power. And that is where we end up in season 1. And here we go into season 2. So season 2, they go into a new time. I believe it's around the 1500s. And Diana and Matthew arrive in the past. And they end up arriving where people who knew Matthew in the past. That wasn't exactly their plan, but they're just going to roll with it because here they are. But these people that knew Matthew before know a different type of Matthew. The Matthew that Diana knows is not the same one. It's not the same type of person. So to avoid any suspicion on his end, he tries to act as best he can of the Matthew of the past. But in the past, he has done some things he is not very proud of. Another thing that happens once they get to this time period is that they tell people that they're married. They just come up with this story and they said, it's just the easiest thing. Let's just be married. And honestly, I was living for it. But if you think them being in a relationship in their present time was weird, it's even more crazy in the 1500s. People are like, they're literally looking at Matthew like, are you crazy? What has happened to you? Because again, witches and vampires, they don't marry each other. They don't become friends. It's just not like that. For the reason they came in the past, Diana eventually finds a coven and they can help her with her powers. While they are there, they run into a little orphan boy called Jack, and they end up kind of taking him under their wing. And they kind of had this little family going on, them and Jack, and then just taking care of him. And it's kind of cute. And it's definitely so adorable and cute. Eventually, as the days go on, they are summoned by Matthew's father. So they go and travel to see his father and see why he has called them. So his father had heard that he had married to a witch and definitely wondering what's going on with Matthew. And he also does notice that there is something slightly different about him. But his father definitely does not trust witches, and that includes Diana. Very shortly after, while the three of them are together, Diana decides to tell Matthew's father the truth, that they are actually from the past and they had come there to kind of help with her magic. So eventually, as the three of them are spending more time together, his father does eventually come around, and he even encourages them to make this marriage that they say between them real. So they have a cute little wedding, maybe not little, but they have a nice wedding together, and this time with his father's blessing. Because actually in present day, his father is no longer alive. He doesn't tell his father exactly what happens, but he kind of has mixed emotions seeing his father again. And it was nice for his father to meet Diana since he wouldn't meet her in their time, and that he gave his blessing on this marriage. But seeing them get married honestly was one of the most beautiful parts of the show. I absolutely loved it, and Diana looked beautiful. So after the marriage and everything with his father, they're making their way back home, and they actually end up finding the Book of Life. So once they get it and retrieve it and go back to their home, Diana tries to read it, but it seems like the Book of Life in this timeline is slightly different than it was in the present, and so she's kind of trouble reading it, kind of trouble understanding it as well. So with Diana completing her magic training, they are ready to go back to their own time. And they do decide at this time that it's best to leave the Book of Life where it is, because they don't want to change too much of the future. They've already been there long enough, don't know what kind of effects them being there is causing in the future. But they're trying to limit that as much as they can. They also have to say goodbye to everyone, including little Jack, but they do leave him under the good care and make sure that he is protected and watched over. But the biggest twist of all in season 2, y'all, was that we find out that Diana is pregnant. And literally everyone's faces are shocked because he's a vampire. He shouldn't be able to have kids anymore. But she is a very powerful and special witch. So I guess anything is possible with that. But that is where we end for season 2. For season 2, I was surprised they did spin the whole season in the past. I thought maybe like half the season they spend in the past, then come back to the present. I didn't dislike season 2 because there were definitely parts that I did enjoy, and I liked seeing their relationship grow even more, just being kind of the two of them secluded and not too much outside noise. But it wasn't my favorite season. I just kept waiting for them to be back to present day because I wanted them to get back. Season 2 was good. I just wanted them to get back to present day. That's all I'm saying. Okay, here we go for season 3. So Diana and Matthew are back in their own time, and we find out that they are not only pregnant, but they are having twins. Like, could it get even crazier? So when the word gets out that they're pregnant and they're having twin babies, let's just say a lot of people are like threatened by these babies because this is unheard of. So they don't know what to expect. First, they didn't want this union happening, and now they're having magical babies. They're threatened by how powerful these two are as a couple. Also, in season 3, we see Jack. In the past, he was a very small boy that they had adopted as their own, but now he is an adult and he is a vampire. Not everyone was happy to see that he had turned into a vampire because Matthew does know the difficulty it is with being one, so he wasn't the happiest seeing what had become of him. Diana and him were both happy to see that Jack was well and see him again. But here's another thing they didn't really know, that Jack has blood rage. So blood rage is something that a vampire gets, and it is only in a certain lineage, and it is in Matthew's lineage, even though he didn't turn Jack. Someone in their vampire bloodline did turn Jack, and their bloodline contains blood rage. Not everyone gets blood rage, but those that do, it is something where a vampire can't really control themselves and their thirst for blood. So Jack has been actually killing people and kind of causing big media attention. The vampires in the congregation don't like that. If they bring more attention to them, that's bad for everyone. So usually vampires that have blood rage that are killing sporadically and have no control over themselves are killed. And in the past, Matthew was the one that was ordered to kill those people. One reason being they were vampires in his bloodline. But now that he's seeing that is Jack, Matthew can't bring himself to do it. He helps Jack control his blood rage like Matthew controls his. So as I'm coming towards the end of season 3, generally the whole series, people are after Matthew and Diana. But I feel like when we come to season 3, like the main groups of people, we have the people in the congregation. There's a couple that are really after their union. We have Benjamin in season 3, and we also have Satu, who was there for all 3 seasons. So Satu is another powerful witch, and throughout the season there was like a prophecy that there will be a powerful witch, and a lot of people assumed and believe it's Diana. One reason, because she could call upon the Book of Life. So Satu is also a very powerful witch, and I think there was little envy and jealousy there as well, that people automatically thought it was Diana, and no one even considered that it was her. For a while there, some people thought it might be. They were just 2 powerful witches that were coming up around the same time, but because of the Book of Life, people automatically thought, nope, it's Diana. And honestly, another reason, she's having kids. Like, what more evidence did they need? But Satu has always been kind of after Diana, and I also think it's a way to prove to people like, this woman is not as powerful as you think she is. I'm powerful. I'm probably even more powerful than her. Benjamin is a vampire from Matthew's past. I believe we got a glimpse of him from season 2, but he really took on a larger role in season 3. So he is a part of Matthew's bloodline, and he was also the person who was the cause for Matthew's father's death, and he's kind of after Matthew as well. So when Matthew goes to confront him in present day, Benjamin ends up capturing him, and Diana has to come and save him and rescue him. So Diana comes, she defeats Satu and Benjamin. I do have to say, I was a little disappointed in this part. I think the battle between Diana and Satu, if I'm pronouncing her name wrong, I apologize, between Diana and Satu was a little lackluster. And one reason, because, okay, their first battle, kind of like in season 3, was an unfair advantage because Diana didn't really have her powers, didn't know how to use her powers. And then eventually, because of what Satu did to Diana, she kind of lost her powers too. So we're in season 3 where both of these women had to step back and take time to grow and to nurture their power, to learn how to become powerful again and be like even better version of what they were before. So after seeing the journey they both took to regain their power, I was expecting 2 women to go at it in a fight to the death. I was expecting something epic, and what we got was not epic. And to me, it wasn't even really a fight. Diana comes to challenge Satu because she's a part of this thing with Benjamin. And I think, honestly, I don't remember 100% what Satu does, but I think she raises her hand to do some little power on Diana, and then Diana binds her powers immediately. There was no push, pull, tug, no resistance, no even fight. It was just like, like a snap of her fingers and her power, and she binded her powers. And I was like, I was waiting for this epic battle. I wanted something more of what happened when Satu was kind of like opening her up to see her powers, but Diana was fighting back. I wanted more of that, some back and forth, but more equal, equivalent, because Diana was more powerful now, but we did not get that. That was something I was disappointed in. I think it just was too quick. It was just kind of rushed through, and maybe because it was a final season, they were kind of trying to wrap things up as best they can. I'm not sure, but I just wish we spent a little bit more time on that. Okay, so they defeated Benjamin. He's gone. He's dead now. They defeated Satu. So now really that's all left. Their biggest enemy is the congregation, and it's not everyone in the congregation, but it's some influential people that are trying to stop Matthew and his family and Diana. So eventually Diana comes to plead her case and kind of works her real magic and shows them the book of life. She tells them they need to work more together, and separating the creatures is hurting all of them and it's not helping them. So kind of bringing this more to light, she has more people on her side, and they decide to have a new form of leadership within the congregation. Not Diana herself, but someone she does trust, who thinks will have everyone's best interests in mind and not just their own. Overall, I really liked how the ending wrapped up. It was happy and I got closure, and I really enjoyed that. Something I wish that was done differently or was fleshed out more was the demons within the seasons. I wasn't quite sure what they could do. Maybe it was explained and I didn't understand it or missed it, but we see the vampires, what they can do. We see what witches can do, but demons, they look like humans, but I don't really know what they can do. So that was something I was missing, or maybe it wasn't explored as much as I wanted to be. I was just really confused in what demons were even there for. They basically look like humans. But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed the show. I loved it had a beginning, a middle, and an end. So if you didn't know my rating already, I would give this show 4.75 stars. It wasn't a 5, but it was really, really close for me. I really just liked it. I've already rewatched this show already because I enjoyed it so much. I actually watched this show very soon after I watched My Lady Jane, and like I said before, it was just nice to watch a show that I knew had an ending, complete ending, and the show knew they were having an ending and wrapped it all nicely. After having My Lady Jane and not knowing if it's going to have a season 2 and kind of being crushed that it didn't get renewed, then I find this show and it just healed my heart a bit, knowing like, okay, this show has beginning, middle, end. If you have seen A Discovery of Witches and you want to see something else like it, I have a couple recommendations. So I actually would suggest My Lady Jane if you did like A Discovery of Witches. Number one reason is because Lord Guilford is in this show as well. Yes, he's a vampire. He pops up on the screen and I was literally looking like, Guilford, is that you? What are you doing here? So yeah, he is in this show. He does great, and it was honestly kind of cool seeing him for My Lady Jane. First time ever seeing him on TV, loving him in that show, and then coming to this show and seeing like, oh my goodness, there he is. Go check out My Lady Jane. Also, if you like the romance in this show, you'll probably like the romance in My Lady Jane as well, and you can go catch that on Prime. I would also suggest, if you like the fantasy and like the mythical creatures and the vampires, I would suggest Vampire Diaries. Actually, I don't love that show so much, but a lot of things that were happening in this show, you might also like Vampire Diaries. Vampire Diaries is more of a teen show, so I just want you to know that from the start, because this one's more adult. I feel like Vampire Diaries is more generated towards teens. That's not for you. I would also check out the originals. It's a spin-off of the Vampire Diaries, and I feel like that's more, I suggest both of them. I think if you like A Discovery of Witches, you might like those two shows. But those are all my recs for this TV show. But yeah, if you have seen A Discovery of Witches, what did you think? And did you see it when it first aired, or are you just discovering it now on Netflix like I did? Leave your comments below. If you have any recommendations for people that like this show, what else they should check out, let me know. I would love to see more like this, whether it is a similar romance or even the mythical fantasy creatures as well. I would like to check those out. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you like this and you want to see more from me, you feel free to check out my website. I have some more TV content on there. Check out any other videos as well. I have other reviews and other things I've been watching. Feel free to check me on my socials, ATS_MGO. subscribe, like, comment, do what you gotta do. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, week, month, and hopefully a good rest of your year. And until next time, bye.